Well, Stephen, sir, how is it going?
It's going very well. How are you doing today?
I'm not doing so bad. Not doing so bad. I'm trying to get my camera to actually zoom in a little bit. So I'll just recheck that. Whoa, that's a little bit too much. Let's see.
That's great. There you go.
There we go. There we go. So things are going well with you, sir.
They sure are. We're moving right along. Very busy with all things private label people, and excited about this topic, and of course, just the day-to-day that we have going on. How about yourself?
Yeah. Oh, totally looking forward to talking about this topic. It's one that we'll certainly dig into, and one that a lot of people don't talk about, which we will also mention. And that is, of course, the topic of critical inventory. I do apologize, Steve. I've got a couple of monitors on, so if I'm looking across it this way, it's for the presentation that we've got to everybody catching us on this replay. I apologize for me constantly moving like this and this, but we'll certainly get to that. I think for the start off here, Stephen, is I'm going to stop the actual slides just because what we want to do is we kind of want to have a bit of a conversation rather than death by PowerPoint, as somebody once put it, kind of having a conversation around this topic. And it is one of those topics, like we mentioned, that it's just not talked about, and it's certainly not taught either. But just slightly before we go into that, I guess one of the things that we did want to cover was, we did send out a lot of emails about this. We did post a lot about this, and there was a very good reason for that, so wasn't it?
Yeah, there was. I reached out individually through DM, through Circle. I sent out some emails. I did all of that. And the reason is because I really feel, after talking with countless people inside private label people, that this is a topic that really touches everybody inside the group that is currently selling. And we want to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity to participate in their own business. We talk about that as being a private label person. And in this particular topic, because it's not a topic that's often talked about or something that's been taught in the past, we really wanted to make sure we offered it to everybody and reached out to them all.
And the very word that you used there at the end was offer, right? One thing that we wanted to get across, especially on this replay, was that there's nothing for sale here, right? So this evening, this morning, whenever you're watching this replay, there is nothing for sale, okay? So at the end of this call, 40, 50 minutes, an hour from now, there is not a pitch towards something. There is absolutely zero for sale, apart from here comes your products, your actual products, right? Which is what we want to talk about. We want to get your products selling, and in particular, the topic this evening is the critical inventory. And for me, digging into this idea of critical inventory, it sort of starts to sound like, well, critical inventory could be something to do with reordering my items that are critical to have into stock and critical to have in inventory. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about inventory that is at a critical point. Because if we rewind the clock a little bit, and we look at the strategy of where you wanted to be or what you wanted your products to do whenever they launched, that was really to do with having those or that trial order sold out within sort of 6 to 9 months. Would 10 months be terrible? Would 11 months be terrible? Absolutely not. But when it starts to get into like month 12, 13, 14, what then, right? What happens then? And as it elongates out, really what we're talking about is the profitability that we were once thinking of starts to eke away. It starts to get slippage. And whenever you start to get into month 18, 19, 20 and beyond, all of the profit could actually be a way so it backstays. The profits are gone, as we say.
Yeah, for myself, I had this, you call it epiphany or just a learning lesson early in our business journey of selling through our own portfolio and private label. And what we learned, I remember specifically the time where we talked about the product moving from the asset column to the liability column. And what that was that I had hung on to a product for a long period of time, not the product, but the stock. The stock had been in my inventory and had outlasted the initial strategy that we had set up for that product. And I had a realization about the profits being gone in that product. Even if I was to sell 100% of the remaining stock of that product that day, I still wouldn't have the same profit margins that I would have had I met the 6 to 9 month strategy. And so I started to realize for myself that I needed to have a new strategy, and gratefully I was surrounded by people that could show me that direction. And that is a little bit of where this critical inventory conversation comes into, because for a long time, the answer to all my private label problems was a new product. And we understand the importance of new products in your business. No one's going to undermine that or underestimate how important that is. But getting a new product, as important it is to the profit margins and to the business in whole, it doesn't solve for my critical inventory issue. That product is still sitting there. That product is, that stock is still not being sold through at a good capacity. It's also incurring costs to me. And that was the problem that I was experiencing. So I really wanted to talk about this. Robert and I have spoke about this. The team has spoke about this, and it really kind of came to the conversation of, is this important? Should we be talking about this? And the answer was yes, we should be talking about it right now.
Yeah, and as you said, like that just being the only solution, just like add a new product in, well, that's not an answer. It's a solution, right? And like the solutions, it's not great, right? Solutions are not great. It's an answer that you're looking for, right? It's really an answer. And whenever we look at that, what you're doing is you're kind of papering over the cracks. You're hiding it. You're disguising it, because a new product is vital to the business, but it has no connection whatsoever to this type of critical inventory. As you said, Stephen, that doesn't help this product move, right? It doesn't help it get off the books, turn good money into bad money, which we'll kind of look at. And I know then a lot of people will sort of move in to start beating themselves up. And look, every single business out there, right? Every single business has critical inventory. Some people call it slippage or breakage, or it could be a number of different words that they use. But actually then, whenever we took on the conversation, Stephen, we sort of likened it to this idea of like a league table, where the people or the stock or the teams, as we even refer to as sports teams, at the bottom of the league, they get relegated. They get moved on and new teams come in to fill their spot. Or inside a bigger business, 10% of the staff are not up to that standard. They get moved on, new ones come in. And we jokingly talked about, like American sports not having relegation. We said, hey, they're being rewarded for finishing bottom of the conference. They get the first pick of the new breed. It's like, that's totally wrong. Relegate them to the bottom of the next league down. Or in this case, what we're talking about in terms of critical inventory is that when we've got something sitting in that liability column that you talked about, let's get it out of there, right? Let's get it out of there. We know that, the profit has gone, but are we going to sit around longer and see it going more in the liability? Or do we move it, turn that bad money that it's sitting in right now, turn it back into good money that can be reutilized in the future? So, we were looking at a strategy. That strategy hasn't worked, right? So therefore, for me, Stephen, the strategy has to change, right? So I think then we move into how will that strategy change because of where people are maybe where their heads are at right about now?
I agree. For me, I worked in as a manager for a long time in retail, and I worked at multiple different companies that were huge, that had multiple stores, sometimes thousands of stores. And managing some of these metrics was a huge piece, because if you could get we called it shrink at the time, if you could get it down to below 3%, 1.5%, they would actually, it was so important to them because it was such a piece of their business, they would actually provide you a bonus if you could manage that great. There was little pieces to this that were so, and I understood that in that bottom 10%, whether it's staff or production or whatever the case is. And in our case, sometimes it's products. We need to have a new issue. And what happens for me, and what happens for a lot of sellers, I think, is that they get this feeling of being overwhelmed, feeling of being lost. Sometimes the idea of giving up completely just comes in and starts to seep into your attitude and your actions daily. That leads to poor motivation, and it feels like this idea, and I've heard this spoke about many times, is that there's a lot of money going out and nothing's coming back in. And so, a lot of the things that we have focused on at Private Label People has been finding answers for a lot of these questions and these issues that people have spoken about to us. And this is an answer. This is a strategy. And really what happens is we start making, when we start acting from a place of desperation because we feel money's going out and nothing's coming back in, and we're demotivated, we're upset about what's happening, we start making mistakes. And these are based out of desperation, and not using the data that we really purchased. That was our initial purchase, is the data, and the facts that data, the story that data tells us. We don't use that, it becomes problematic for us. And the idea of the solution that most people move to, the first thing, is a desperate change, which is change the price. And I know this is a topic that is very, very important to Robert. It's a topic that he talks about all the time. And I think you're going to start to hear us talk about an idea about up, not down. And the strategy should always be up with your price and never down. And so making that, making desperate decisions on your stock, on your products, this is not a roadmap for being successful going forward.
Yeah, and it's having that as the only option inside the arsenal, right? That's, you look around the arsenal, that's the only thing there. And you call it like a desperate move, and it's a critical mistake, right? But we're not saying that you'll never move your price down. What we're saying is that that's not your only weapon, right? It's not your only weapon, and we should be thinking about up, not down first, right? And we should be looking at profit and loss, right, as a statement, revenue, COGS, GP, expenses, NP, as we go down through. And it's like some of these items, along with other items, have ended up in the expenses column, right? They're not adding into the revenue column. If you keep them in the expenses column, right, or in the expenses area, you have to add in more and more revenue in order to level the net profit. That doesn't make sense, right? Removing it from the expenses column, right? And your expenses inside this business should be minimal, right? Like, as anybody out there who's got an expenses column, and you're tracking it, of course, if it's over $500 a month, there's a problem, right? There's a problem here, right? So let's identify those expenses. And this critical inventory, if it's sitting around, incurring storage, this, that, and the other, not adding to the party. If it's not adding to the party, then it's taking away from the party, right? Which then leads us into this idea that we're not going to add to the portfolio because we're waiting on this other thing doing something. And yet we're doing nothing. So how the heck could that thing be doing anything, right? We've got no strategy. All we're doing is just chopping away, hoping. And hope, as we sort of say, is a bit of a dirty word, right? Hope is not a strategy, right? Hope is not a strategy. And we then got to look towards, when we start to identify this critical inventory, we separate it, we keep our product portfolio mindset, right? Because that then gets us focused on the new items that we're talking about for the business. But we're still doing the work inside this critical inventory. So I think, Stephen, what we should do is we should jump across right back into our presentation, because getting people that focus on what we're doing here, separating the two different sides of the business, to me would make a lot of sense. Right. So let me just pop this slideshow back up again. Right? And I'm just going to hit the share button on the window so that you can see my screen. And hopefully that appears. There we go. That looks like it's appearing now.
I got you.
Back to where we were. So this idea of critical inventory. And I want us to roll back a little bit, because the first thing that we have is these ideas about what we think, right? And what we think is very, very important. And I think what we start to think of, or what we think we want, all right? So what we think we want is we want to invest in a product. We want to have a minimal investment of time and effort. So we're thinking, I'm not going to do very much in this. I'm just going to throw it there, this, that, and the other. The product lands in the stock. Day one, the sales start. Every day after that, the sales start increasing, and all the money will be back into your bank account in time for a reorder. And this is what we dream of, right? This is what we just like. This is what I think we want. Sitting on a beach, sipping our tequilas or our cocktails, getting served by beautiful waiters. The sun is shining. We've got our sunnies on. We're sitting there counting all of our money. But on the opposite side, this is actually what we want to think. And this is a complete paradox here, because we want to think that we're going to invest in a product. We're going to be doing maximum time and effort investment. Product lands in stock. Day one, nothing sells. Every day after that, nothing's going to sell. There's going to be no sales whatsoever. I'm going to lose all of my money, all of my time, all of my effort. This sucks. And I'm basically in jail, right? I'm purgatory, where I'm eating stale bread and drinking water from some prison guard here who's looking very grumpy, right? But the truth actually lies somewhere in the middle, right? That we have not even considered or taken into consideration. And this, for me, is what we actually want, right? We want to have our products being launched in a plan of regularity, right? What do I mean by that, right? Well, it means that you've got regular new products coming into the business. For some people, that could be a product every single month. For others, it could be once a quarter or once every 6 months. That depends on your situation, but it's regular regardless, right? So even if it's not very frequent, it's still regular, right? And the time and the effort that you're going to invest in this product and its launch is optimal, right? It's not all day, every day, or it's just nothing. It's going to be optimal. The product's going to land in the stock, and the early terms that we're reporting on, we're just looking for a show of promise on this product based against a plan. An interesting word which we're going to talk about as well today. And we have regular reviews, so we're doing our drop files, we're putting these things up, we're looking at our opus reports, and we just want to see gradual improvement, right? Just gradual improvement. We want profitable sales. We don't want sales at any cost. We want profitable sales, and we want to then bank that money so that when we need to do a reorder, there is something sitting there. It may not be everything, it may not be on time, but it's being banked, right? And we had a laugh about this because this was an image that was generated from AI for the presentation. And I simply said to AI, Stephen, show me a picture of contentment. And I jokingly then said to you, I think my wife and your partner, Emily, have had some sort of brain infusion into AI because they both love cats. This to me is not contentment, but to them it probably is, eh?
Yeah, this is more of a horror story for me.
Yeah.
But,
you know, the whole concept is for people, it's like we actually want a level of contentment where we're not stressing, we're not, freaking out, right? or we're not doing the opposite of nothing, right? It's somewhere in between where we're content, right? And that's what we're looking for. It comes back around to point number 2, right? What was the plan? Remember I talked about plan? Well, what was the plan? And we then jokingly said, well, people bring in these ideas of shortcuts, Stephen, but they just take too long, do they?
They do. And they are full of mistakes.
Absolutely. Like 110%. I couldn't agree more. And my first thing then is, like, what was the plan? Was there a plan? Was there actually a plan? We have talked about it before and people have kind of ignored it. So I want people to go back and look, there has to be a plan. What are we planning for on our sessions? What are we planning for on our unit session percentage? If we know the sales price, then we can start to generate some sort of plan of revenue. Right? If we have a plan and it goes to one side of that plan, well, we know, well, where did it go wrong, right? We could also then say, well, why did it go wrong, right? Was the sessions down on plan? Was unit session percentage the problem, right? Where did it go wrong? Why did it go wrong? Also, what did you do when it went wrong, right? And what did you actually do? Did you sit there and just go, oh, it's gone wrong, right? Well, that's not a strategy. And how did you change it, right? How did you do what you did when it went wrong? And did you even review it? So did you review the plan to find out where it went wrong or right, or contentment or overwrite or any of these things, right? When did you do the review? What was the review like? What did you review in terms of your changes? All of those different things. Because, Stephen, for me, these 7 things here are just not there whenever there is no plan, right? If there's no plan, there's no direction. No direction, then you've got no clarity on the situation, right? You've got no goal heading, no milestones. If you don't have a milestone or a checkpoint, then how could you ever celebrate it? Or like the achievement of nearly getting the checkpoint or over exceeding the checkpoint? How would you know what sort of resources you're going to need to allocate in terms of your time, your effort to do these different things? People love the word risk. Well, without a plan, there's absolutely zero risk management. So for me, if you don't have a plan, then you cannot say that you're afraid of failure or afraid of risk, right? Because you don't have a plan, therefore you're just hitting and hoping. You can't care about the failure then, or the success, right? Without the plan. There's no coordination in it. You can't have any collaboration, because how would you collaborate with somebody like us if there's no plan, right? I planned to hit 150 sessions on this product inside the first 3 months. I haven't done that. I need to collaborate. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense is I want to collaborate in something that I've got zero idea what I was hoping to hit, and here's where it is. That's not a collaboration. Right? You've got no flexibility, right? So I want to hit 150 sessions. I got the 145 sessions. Okay. That's okay. That's flexibility, right? Without a plan, there's no flexibility because you don't know what you're going for. And of course, there's no evaluation strategy. There's no accountability. You can't turn around and go, right, I need to evaluate where I am. I need to be accountable. Anything else you'd add into that slide, Steve?
You know, these last 2 slides are really impactful, because if you're not asking yourself the questions that are on that first slide that you just did, the one before this, then you're going to, that's where it starts. We have to start asking ourselves these questions. And if you don't know what questions to ask, then that's what we constantly talk about this at Private Label People. We also even go so far as to say, lean into us, ask us what you need. You have to, I know Robert mentions it all the time. We don't want you to suffer in silence. We want you to raise your hand. We want you to participate in your business and raise your hand and say, you know what is the plan? What I feel I'm missing something, or because this part is going to lead you down to critical inventory without a plan. And what's going to happen is that all of your products are going to get there, and you can have products that are successful products that have critical inventory, because the strategy, for whatever reason, maybe the lead time was long, maybe the competition changed, maybe the market changed. It doesn't mean the product is a total throwaway, and I know we're going to speak to that a bit.
Maybe you ordered too many, Stephen.
Right. We talked about that too. I know Ollie and Mickey recently on a stream that we did talked about during COVID. They bought I think it was an order of 5,000. They were at 180 units a day at one point, and then it slowed right down. So that's still a great product, but it has currently some critical inventory. So then what is the plan? And I know that there's a lot of people that ask us for accountability, meaning, could you help me in this area? Because they do desire this, but then the practical application gets lost a little bit, because the one thing as you're discussing this that keeps resonating in my mind is all reporting, because that is the initial investment, is the data, and then it's just not as sexy as the rest of it. It's easier to just look at the units you sold or the dollars that you have, as opposed to dig, a little bit further. And if you want to be successful, you're going to have to dig further. You're going to have to do what the competition isn't doing, and you're going to have to get to this place, which is, some clarity, some, risk management, and some adaptability and flexibility, along with accountability. It's huge for me.
Also, people are not putting their time and effort into a plan, right? They won't invest any money in a plan, right? Because they don't value a plan, right? It is not sexy having a plan. What is sexy is what the plan actually does, right? We'd rather go for the shiny objects every single time, and what comes after those shiny objects is pain, right? What comes after a plan is gain, right? It's definitely as simple as that. So invest your time, invest your effort, invest your money in a plan so that you have something to stick to. From now on, every single product that you bring forward into this business has a plan, okay? And every product that's sitting in your business, an existing product, has a plan drawn up for it, right? I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. This is just a fact, right? If you're not going to do it and your business doesn't have a plan, you don't have a plan. We do this. It's as simple as that. Now, one other topic that I want to dig into just before we go really deep into critical inventory is this idea of your business fuel, right? Now, products, like we talked about inside the business, think of them as engines, right? And the stock of those said products are actually the fuel that fuels the engine, right? So an engine operates, it needs fuel to run, right? But also the fuel is not very useful without an engine, okay? And I'm sure you've heard the expression, 2 engines are better than 1, right? Now, we're not saying that you have 2 products in your business and that's it. And what I'm saying is more engines are better than less engines, okay? So more products are definitely better than less products in a business. But also the right fuel for that engine makes the engine run efficiently and effectively. And the whole game here that we are playing is to have lots of engines with the perfect fuel for those engines, right? But of course, you can have and will have and likely do have some bad engines in your business, right? This is a particularly stinky engine here. Like it's not attractive looking.
You really get some extra bonus points for your imagery. It's just spot on.
Yeah. And if we have a bad engine, right? A bad engine or a bad product, it must be removed, right? Or replaced inside the business. Removed and then replaced is the idea. And it's got to be done at its earliest convenience, right? We've got to catch on. We talked earlier there about, we let time go by. We sat there and said, oh, my strategy is to wait. Well, waiting's out, right? Or my strategy is to keep doing what I'm doing. All right? Well, that's not really at the earliest convenience. And also at the lowest possible cost, right? Well, slashing your price by 80% is not the lowest cost, right? Also, in the quickest time possible, okay? Also not at the lowest cost is sticking another grand into PPC. That's not a lowest cost, right? Or letting it hang around forever and a day, racking up storage bills. That's not its lowest cost, right? Now, we're not saying you're not going to have to store it. We're not saying that you're not going to potentially look at your pricing. We're not saying that you're not going to do PPC. You're just not going to do these really rudimentary, basic tricks, right? Tricks. That's all they are. They are not strategies. We need to put all of this together. But actually, a bad engine, removing it, it's easy. Right? Stop selling it. Go into Amazon, click the buzzer beside the product, hit cancel listing. That is gone. It's been removed. Right? But the fuel, it's actually the fuel that is more so what we're talking about here, because you invested more in the fuel for the engine than the engine itself. What did you invest in the engine? Pictures, bit of listing, bit of your time, etc., right? Relatively low compared to the fuel, right? And again, stinky engine, stinky fuel right here, some sort of nuclear toxic waste. Extra bonus points for me for the imagery. But and so the same thing goes here, right? Bad fuel's got to be removed, right? And replaced with good fuel for a different engine, right? At the earliest convenience, at the lowest cost, in the quickest time possible. This is the harder part, also.
Yeah, and I do think making the distinction between the engine and the fuel, and in this case, between the product and the inventory or the stock is a huge distinction, because we've even talked in the recent past about how a product stands alone and has many things that are correlated with it. A product can have stock, a product can have an order, a product can have a reorder. They're just associated with the product, and the product itself being the engine. We've even gone to say that these are the partners in your own business, is the products, and it's huge for us. I think that at the lowest cost is a big piece, because I know that a lot of times people just want to throw PPC at this problem, and that comes at an additional cost. And that is obviously the opposite of what we're trying to affect here. We want to keep lowest cost, quickest time. We want to get an answer to this and move on it.
Yeah, and whenever we're looking at this, really what we're talking about is time versus cost versus gain. So kind of like, how long or how short will this be, right? Obviously, we want to move the time closer to us, right? Less time, right? Versus the cost of what we're doing. So trying to move, what's the cost going to be to move this, right? There is going to be a cost, right? Because if there wasn't a cost, then you'd be doing what you'd be doing. This would not be sitting in critical inventory, right? Sure. But also there is a gain, right? Because if we're selling it, then there is a gain. So we got to marry these things up, right? What we're always doing is we're moving what is currently sitting in a bad money column, and we're moving it back into good money. And I think a really important part here, which people have forgotten, is the original investment. You got to forget about it, right? It is not important in this formula, because when you tie it to the original, you will start making those emotional, poor decisions based on past and not based on where we currently are and where we're going there. So I know that you like this line.
I do, and it's not to say that the original investment isn't important. We know how important it is. As a matter of fact, this entire idea of critical inventory is because we understand how important that original investment is. It's just that at this stage, at this part of the strategy, you have to move on. And then you have to move on from that original investment. You have to let it go, and you have to come up with, what do I do now? And that is not easy to do, because it affects us emotionally, mentally. We look at our financial piece into it, but it is critical at this stage for us to move forward, because the investment is so important. It's just that at this stage, we have to move past the idea that we're going to get it back, that we've moved on. We have to keep going.
Yeah, and the line 4 here is really for everybody to have a think about, because there's no right or wrong answer here. For some people, 1K back in the 6 months is better than 1.5K back in 9 months, right? For other people, taking that little bit longer time of 9 months to bring back more is acceptable, right? For me, I'm kind of like a time guy. I want it back as quickly as I can, because I know I can put it into somewhere else, right? But others, there's no right or wrong answer here. You just got to decide what you're looking at. Have a plan, right? It's not like saying, oh, well, I'll take either of those. That's not a plan, right? It's like, which one are we going for? I don't care which one you're looking at. I just need to know what are we talking about? You want more gain over a longer period of time, or you want less gain over a shorter period of time, right? Then what we got to know is part of the plan, where is the new good money going to, right? It cannot go into expenses, right? It's not going to pay for something else, okay? It's not going to pay some outsourced consultant or this, that, and the other, or coach or whatever it is. It's not going in to pay for some other critical inventory that you've got sitting somewhere. It's got to go somewhere good in the business that can feed back into the top revenue, right? So it's got to go somewhere that is sensible. And what we're looking at then is trying to say, if it's bad at the minute, let's get it from bad to good to better, okay? So it's like, if we can take it from bad, we turn 1,000 then into good. Can we then recycle that again to make it 2,000, which would be even better? We've got to look at the money flow, so.
I just want to say this, the line number 4 there, you mentioned that you're kind of a speed guy. I don't know where this kind of stuff comes from, Robert. I would venture that you would say every time, let's go with the 1,000 early, as fast as possible. Let's move on it. And you know what? I've started to adapt that strategy. I think because even in the past, I might have been the longer term, the bigger money back. But I understand more now about this business and how important it is to feed it today, and how important it is to get this engine moving in the right direction and keep it going. And it's, this is a huge piece for me. And who doesn't want to turn bad money to good money to better money? I mean, that's the problem people are speaking about. I have money going out, nothing's coming back in, and then I'm paying for stuff that's not doing anything. We got to get it to be better.
So whenever we talk about looking into a plan, what we've got to look is, I like to call this rolling the dice, okay? Because we have D, I, C, E, and now E is squared. There's two E's in here, right? So what do we mean by the dice? And it's just a nice framework for working. We want to define, then identify, then create, then execute, and then evaluate, okay? So on this call, we're looking to define, and then you're going to go and identify, okay? Then I guess it's an if you're in the situation, we're going to then move on forward, and we're going to start creating what we're going to be doing, creating the tasks. Then we're going to execute the tasks, and then we're going to evaluate the tasks, right? It's the proper basis of a plan. We define it, we identify it, create it, execute it, and evaluate it. Right? So if we take this on a little thing, what we're talking about is we're defining the problem, okay? Now, some people say problem, I like to say opportunity, okay? And I think maybe our mindsets are more so on problem. By the end of what we've been through, you'll be thinking about opportunity. Then we want to identify the variance, right? As in not variance, that's my accent, but variants, which creates or which qualify in the above definition, right? In this business, our variants are our products, right? Are the stock, okay? Then if they qualify in the definition, then they've been identified, right? That's what you're going to be working on, and we'll go into detail on that. Then we're going to create a plan to remove the problem or seize the opportunity, whichever way that you see it. Then we're going to execute that plan from the creation. And then after a period or periods of time, we're going to be evaluating how that plan is progressing. Okay. So first up, we're really looking at a definition. So, and we are inside our replay here, which whenever we were live, what we did was we got everybody to start thinking about the definition, and everybody came up with a pretty cool kind of definition of what qualifies inside critical inventory, what can be regarded as critical inventory. Part one of this was the time since its launch. Okay, so the product that is being defined here, or the variant that's being defined, people say it has to be 12 months since the product launched. Okay, so that was point one. To qualify here, the product must be 12 months old. Okay. Then we looked at profitability was another definition, and we said that it had to be $40 or under $40 per term gross profit after advertising. Okay, so it has to be making less than $40. That could be a minus. Okay, that's minus $10 per term is less than $40. $39 per term. Okay, so it has to be making less than $40 per term gross profit after advertising, and the stock level has got to be at 60% or above of the original. So these were the 3 points there. So right.
They were, and this was nice because this did come from the group of people that were participating in the live stream at the time. And it was really a back and forth where we had the opportunity to really kind of break this down, get a feel for what people thought would qualify a product for critical inventory, and this idea of defining this. And I think it's so important to define the product because, like the question, what is critical inventory? Because not everything we have, just because you feel it or you think it or you don't like it, it necessarily qualifies. So we want to make sure we make the distinction between that.
Yeah, now we'll come back to that in a little second, but what I want to do is just share this up with you, because that is the definition. What you guys now have got to do, your mission, if you choose to accept it, and is to go and identify items inside your catalog that qualify with that definition, right? It's 12 months since you launched it. It's making less than $40 gross profit after advertising. You find that information in your focus. And it's also got 60% or more of its original inventory. That's our definition, right? So to identify, right? The rules of identification, okay? The unit, the product, the line must adhere to the definition that we just described. Right? It must be in a sellable condition, okay? It can't be sitting in the back of a warehouse in bits, right? It has to be sellable, okay? It has to be in a position where you can stock it, or it is currently stocked, right? If it's not stocked in an Amazon fulfillment center, how can it be sellable? Okay. It's got to be 100% in your control, okay? So therefore, you can't have a lien on it. Anybody else can't own part of it. It can't be a product that you're sharing a buy box with, etc., etc. It's got to be 100% inside your control. You must have all the data, okay? I'll come back around to that one. And you're going to have to prioritize it, right? So if you've got 3 lines here that qualify and you've got all the different details, you're going to have to prioritize. Everything cannot be priority level 1. It's got to be 1, 2, 3, where 1 is the most important, 2 is the second most important, 3 is the third most important. They can all be important. We need to have priority. So what data are we talking about? This line down here must have all data. What are we talking about? Looks like a hefty list. However, we have a little trick up our sleeves. You will need the FBA fee where you currently are, right? What is its FBA fee? What is its referral percentage? Okay, the commission that you pay the Amazon. Generally speaking, 15%, could be in a 12% category. What's the cubic foot of a unit? Right, 1 packaged unit, what's the cubic foot? What is the monthly storage rate that you're currently paying, right? Where the bulk of the inventory is. Might be an Amazon fulfillment center, might be in a third-party warehouse. Okay, that's generally the 2 areas. Might be in your back shed, in which case the monthly storage rate is 0. Okay, and the current stock level in each country. Okay, so you could have an item that's critical inventory. It may be critical in the States, but not critical in Canada. It may be critical in both, okay? If it is critical in both, we need the stock level in both countries. The current sale price, again, per country, and it's RVF, it's realized value figure. Then we need the average sales units that you're selling at the minute per term in each country, if that qualifies. The sessions and the USP per term as well, right? The unit session percentage. And the average PPC spend per term. Right? Sounds like a lot. Oh, Robert Nessel, you're getting me to do so much work. Well, private label people, they are present in their business. So even if this was a lot of work, which it ain't, in brackets, teaser coming, you would do it. You would go and do it, right? It's critical. It's critical inventory. These pieces of data should be at your fingertips because the top line FBA fee and referral percentage, it's in your PCS. The CBF of the unit and the monthly storage rate, PCS. Current stock level is inside your stock asset file. Current sales price, an RVF, it's inside your PCS. Average sales units, it's inside Opus. Sessions, USP, inside Opus. PPC spend, it's inside Opus, right? So it's great to be able to sit here, give you a big left or right hook to the face and say, are you filling out this information, right? Because if you're not, then you're not being present. You're not giving yourself the data that we talked about right at the top of this call. So this information is right here. If you've been doing this, you just saved yourself a whole pile of work, right? So wrong slide. I need to chop across and let me just exit this statement and go across into here. Hopefully that's the right file. You see that okay?
I can. That's good.
Perfect. So the homework that we leave you with, right? 2 minutes to the end of the call, all right? So this is the important bit, right? This is the important bit. What we want to do is we will create a link to this file, right? You will get it down below or inside your email. If you don't get it, reach out to us, but it is here. Go into file, make a copy, right? Make a copy of this and put it into your own Google Drive, likely your documentation folder, okay? Make a copy of it and then fill it out for every line that you feel adheres to the definition, right? We're going to identify these products. Put in the SKU, right, of the product that you have inside your PCS, okay? Put in the FBA fee that you're currently paying, right? I'm putting in dummy data here, by the way, right? The referral percentage that you're currently paying. That's drop-down menu. The cubic foot of the unit, okay? The storage rate that you're currently paying. The stock level that you currently have in what country, okay? And I'll say US. If this exists in here, in Canada as well, then you need to put in this information for Canada, okay? The current sales price you're selling at, right? The RVF of the product, the average sales units per term, the problem or opportunity. I want you to have a little think about this because it's really one of three, right? Is it low to no sessions, okay? Or is it low to no USP, or is it both? No right or wrong answers here. Just lets me get an idea, or us get an idea as to what you're thinking. Is you're thinking correct, okay? So put that in. The average sessions per term, the average USP per term. You'll see that whenever you type that in, it goes to percentage, okay? That's cool. Don't put another percentage in there. I just typed in 5. You'll also see that I'm not putting in any currency symbols, okay? Keep currency symbols away from this file. We'll know that if the product is in the US, you're selling in US dollars, okay? And then the average PPC per term, all good. Then you will see things that work out, all right? We also have an indicator that we will come to whenever we come back to our next call, but I want you to put in what the priority is. If you've got one line, the priority is going to be 1, okay? If you've got 2 lines, it's 1 and 2, right? And I want you to put it in right order, right? So nothing complicated. Don't get overwhelmed. No need for confusion. No need for crying emoji. This is really simple. I just want you to go through all the information. It's sitting inside the files that you have. You're just transferring it across. And then, so as we said, we don't sit and suffer in silence. If we have any thing that we need to talk about, bring this in circle. We bring it in, we ask questions, and we get over the hurdles, do they?
And we have a great scribe that we put together on this that will let you go right through this sheet too. It'll help you out from downloading it to getting the link to follow, to making a copy, not to affecting our direct, sheet there. So I know that's important. And here it is right here. This is great.
Yep, everything is here. What I've just talked about, you've got all it step by step. There is also another little video in here which just breaks down that bit for the sheet. The sheet link is here. Everything is here. I've got nothing else that I want to talk about. I don't know whether you want to have any last words or anything like that. For me, it's about people cracking on, getting this sheet done, and then attending, putting up their hand and saying, yes, I am interested in clearing some of my critical inventory, moving some bad money to good money. I will take on this mission. I will take on the mission of Tast4, come to the next calls, do the work, right? I'm committing to doing this, but that's it from me.
That's it for me too. I really appreciate the effort here when it comes to looking at this specific type of inventory that we can really attack it. We've talked about an attack on your expenses. We've talked about cutting costs wherever we can. We've talked about, many different things. And I think the other side of this is, we talked about it at the very beginning. There's nothing to sell here. This is part of being.
We proved that part, Stephen. We proved that part.
That's right. This is part of being an all-inclusive member with private label people. And this is only really, for me, the beginning of what we're going to be talking about, the beginning of how we continue to innovate and stay on top of things. And when we listen to people speak, understand we are listening. When you're struggling with something, we take those into strategy sessions as a group, and we try to talk about them and bring them up. And this is actually come from you, from the group, about the struggles that you're having with particular type of stock. So this was great for me. I appreciate it, and that's all I have. It was good to participate today and be a part of this. Goodbye.